Damn radio, damn right.
Neighbors. See what happens when you're still learning the ropes when you're in studio. I happen to be Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor. You are listening to Damn Radio, and I am in the Lake Ozark Real Estate of the Art studio. You may phone in 573-746-8020, and I would probably be happy to talk to you. Well, for the most part. I sometimes ignore calls, but I'd be happy to take some and chat with you. I've been doing a lot of thinking today. I was really, troubled by the stabbing. I talked a little bit about it on my show last night, stabbing that poor Ukrainian girl in the bus, subway, whatever it was. And I tell you, I can't watch that stuff. I'm not good at it. You know, I always turn my head away. I'm a scary movie. I don't dislike them, but I don't like blood, guts, gore, all that other stuff. For example, for the longest time, I did not even attempt to watch, what's the, I don't know. It's always about some kind of a zombie show. So whatever that zombie show is, Walking Dead. And I got sucked into watching it one time. I can't remember what I was doing, but I got sucked. But I don't like blood, guts, gore. You know, I'm not into that kind of thing. It's not that, and scary movies, I don't really care about. I don't want to say I scare easy. I don't like seeing the horror stories. And you know, the ones that get me probably the most are those that could really happen. Like stuff like, I don't know what you would call it, Freddy Krueger, some dude in a mask, It, you know, Stephen King. I used to like reading the Stephen King stories, the long, scary ones, you know, I liked, but the ones that I dislike the most are the ones that, you know, you got to put the book down so you don't scare yourself, is the ones that are about a real person harming another real person, not some fictional made up spider blob that's going to come and, you know, suck the life out of you. Those things generally I find amusing, but the sickness of people I believe in. And I believe, you know, I was watching something earlier where the guy kept going, what kind of world do we live in? What kind of world do we live in when? What kind of world do we live in when so-and-so can do such and such? Well, I believe that, you know. I've had my share of evil doing, evil activities, whatever you want to call it, but nothing evil, you know what I mean? And I don't understand. Is it people are just, is the world really that jacked up right now? I mean, seriously, is it really that bad that you're stabbing random people? So I was watching, it was here in the studio last night. I couldn't figure out how to turn off TVs. And there was an entire show of like Hasidic Jews or rabbis or people of that faith. The one, and then there are several different versions. I don't claim to know them all. That wear the black hats or have the curled hair that comes out from under the black hat. And they wear all black, and, you know, you see them in New York sometimes when you go there. And it's not like you don't see them in other places, but, you know, there are places where they're more prevalent. And they were showing this video was showing that there was one kid, you know, they're talking, a young man actually, that was standing there, whatever story he was telling, it was obviously his story, and they were showing him being beaten in the middle of the street and kicked by a group of boys, you know, that were similar in age to him, maybe a little younger, he looked like a young man and they looked like teenage boys, and they were kicking him and kicking him in the face and hitting his hat and, knocking him down and doing all these other things to him. And then they showed a series of videos, and I kept glancing up last night and seeing these videos and couldn't figure out how to control the video, and watching these scenes of people beating or kicking or running up behind an old man in a black whatever the garb is called. I truly don't know, but they walk up and they'd hit their hat off, or you could see it as being some kind of a challenge for some teenagers. Hey, go up and knock off the hat off the old rabbi or whatever, and they run up and hit him from behind and knock him down, and they jump on him and kick him and knee him, and it's like, what in the world is wrong with people? I don't get it. Have we failed so miserably as a society that we've got this horror story of a life that people have to, you gotta, I don't know, wear a suit of armor when you go outside, when you go meet the public. It's ridiculous. And I don't know. It's people are nuts. and I don't know. I just wanted to make my thoughts known on that. I don't like watching this stuff. I don't like seeing this stuff. Have we gotten so used to it that we watch it on TV that I've never gotten used to it. I've never ever gotten used to it. I'm one of those guys that sits in there. I cover my eyes up sitting there. My kids used to make fun of me. We'd be sitting there having movie night and some thing comes up, and I don't know if they thought I was faking it or what, but it's horror. We don't need to create that stuff on TV to see it, especially if it's going to mean that we got to live it, right? And it's if people are that stupid that they think it's that real. I remember, and I hate to rat out my son, but geez, they were a bunch of good kids that were running around when he was in high school. But they were nuts too, and they were all nuts, and we had a big basement. Okay, it was a big old basement with a huge room that was just, I don't know, for hanging out, playing video games and whatever. And that's where the kids hung out. And my son would bring over his nutty friends, one of whom was Jay Nixon's kid, by the way. Sorry to rat him out too, but he was over at my house all the time. His name's Jay too, Jeremiah Jr. or something, but he was over at my house all the time too. And so they were all ran cross country together, and they'd come over. And sorry to rat you out, Andrew, but this was hilarious. And I walk in one night, and this is during the times when what is this show? It was some stupid name. I mean, it was like on MTV or something, and it was stupid. And I would watch that thing, go, what is wrong with them? Even way back then. And they would do things like steal shopping carts and ride them down a hill or whatever, or you gotta, I don't know, strap a stake to your rear end and use it to slide down a hill or whatever. These people were nuts. Oh, I remember they were jackasses. The show was called Jackass, and they were nuts. It was just stupid. And I'd go, oh my God, what are you watching? Well, anyway, and I don't know why I'm telling this stupid story, but I come down in the basement one evening. It's his younger brothers were in bed already or whatever, and I hear some noise in the basement. And I go down there, and there's Andrew and his idiot friends sitting around in a circle, and they're in a big. Well, they're like there was four of them because there's four walls in the room, and one of them's against each wall, right? And they're sitting there, these idiots, they're sitting there with, each of them has like a can of tennis balls. They have these tennis balls. And they're sitting there with their, I don't know why this story came to mind when I'm thinking of a bunch of morons, but you think these are kids in high school back in the day, early 2000s, I guess it was, and a bunch of nuts. And I come walking in the house, and there's these idiots sitting in a circle in the basement, each of them with a can of tennis balls, and the music's on. They're having a good time. You know, they were good kids. There was nothing wrong with them. They weren't being too loud. Every once in a while, I'd hear a yell of some sort of, something like that. And so there they sit. And I come walking in. And as I walk in, and they're all sitting there with their backs against the wall and their legs spread out in front of them, like V-shaped legs, okay? And they're wearing shorts. You know, they were track practice or cross country. They ran both, and they were all very good kids. Went to state, Jefferson City High School, whatever. You know, during that time, they did very well. And good kids. And nuts, but good kids. And they're throwing tennis balls at each other's nuts. The game was you sit with your legs spread across the room, to whatever it is, 10, 12, 15 feet. 20. No, it was a pretty good sized room. Let's call it 17, 18, 20 feet, whatever. It was a big room down there. And they were so, and the deal was if you flinch, whatever, they get to throw another round or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, you people are nuts. Nuts, get it? But you people are freaking crazy. And now that was mild-mannered humor, whatever. They they appropriated, let's call it. They took them back because I made them, but they took the shopping carts back, but they were riding shopping carts down hills and doing stupid stuff, and it's like, oh my God. And if you could do something that would potentially hurt you, here's the problem I had with it. If you could do something that would potentially hurt you, this was seen as, whatever. I remember being a kid and taking dares and, geez, I'm going to go up and kiss that girl. Well, that was no problem, That's easy, run up. Oh, yeah, okay. I can handle that one, And I could handle going up and kissing a girl on the cheek. I could go on, I didn't do anything, I didn't go, strapping or snapping bra straps or anything like that. I was generally a well-behaved kid, and I wouldn't go up and punch people. I got in a couple of scraps, but I never started them, that type of thing. And you never understand the generation that follows you. You just don't get it. And I sure as hell didn't get it. I had no idea what the hell was going on. I was clueless. I was like, what is wrong with these people? I can't do it. Well, now here we are. 15 years later than that, 25 years later than when I was, a young man or whatever. And I never understood, and I served in the military. I'm supposed to see that stuff. We learned some pretty graphic things, and I learned how to deal with some of those things. But I tell you what, those videos that came out, it just makes me, I don't know, sick for society. Whatever horror story that girl allegedly did, which is probably nothing, 99%, that's nothing. Maybe she offended him in a previous life. Who knows? But I can't imagine that. And unfortunately, I've seen that video unintentionally like 6 times because that's all that's showing on TV when you flip it on. And I can't do it. And watching those sorts of things doesn't make it okay. And it's okay to turn off the TV and not watch that stuff and try not to be affected by it, I don't want to go too, soft on you or anything because I'm not a soft person. I have my share of I can be a cold person. You takes a long time to get somebody there, but if you ever get there, it doesn't come back, and that's unfortunate. I had a person in my life one time who I called it writing off. They write off people. You hear me talk about it here on this channel all the time, where you can't do it in a country where everything the country does is bad because you don't like the country, you shouldn't do it with people, especially if you have to work with them. And maybe that's a product of the military and me working and being in the military for as long as I was, carrying a diplomatic passport, working with people that you might not necessarily get along with, or that you don't have a choice with. Now, sometimes in your profession, you don't have a choice anyway. I mean, if you happen to work at anywhere, Walmart, pick it, you're working on a cash register, and the cash register next door, you don't like that person. There are ways to get along with them without destroying your life or theirs. And I don't believe in just evil. You know, I don't believe in just evil countries. I believe that most people have something redeeming. I'm trying to find out what the hell it is with some people, I got to tell you. And I can't imagine, you know, that there's anything redeemable in this moron and an evildoer who took out a 23-year-old girl sitting in a seat checking out her phone. Anyway, enough on that. I talked about it last night, and it just makes me sick. It truly does. And it makes me, I'm in pain for our society. Let's call it that. If this is what we're down to, Jesus, we're done. You know, this is, how in the world do we fix this? Or can we? So what I've been doing is I've decided to lighten it up a little bit. And so I chose to start with who? Now, I had this translated already because I pulled a bunch of feel-good stuff from some of my Russian channels that I like to watch. And there I found a really good one, and damn, he looks pretty good. And the article is called, it's from from a magazine called Super. And it's a Russian magazine, but the magazine is called Super. And the title of the story is What Steven Seagal's Barvikha Mansion Looks Like. Video Super. There's a video of it. And Super shows what Steven Seagal's mansion in Barvikha looks like. And so I figured I'd give you an update on Steven Seagal. Because he has been living in Russia. So in almost 10 years of living in Russia, Steven Seagal has managed to acquire real estate. And not just any real estate, but elite real estate. Turns out that the American actor has acquired a mansion in Barvikha. The area of the house is 400 meters. Now, let's figure that out because I don't know, but we're going to have to ask Google. So we're going to see what Google says to us, okay? Okay, Google. How many square feet is 400 square meters? See if it answers. 400 meters is approximately 4,305 square feet. Let me tell you something, friends and neighbors. In Russia, that is an enormous house. Okay. Now, when I lived in Jefferson City, and I actually lived in, what the hell was the name of that little town outside of Jeff City? Wardsville. I lived in Wardsville, and I had this cool little house on 3 acres. Never should have gotten rid of that thing. Listen to some woman who convinced me to get rid of it. That makes me mad, but oh well. I'd have probably lost it by now anyway. But I loved that house. That house was 5,200 square feet. And I loved that house. It was, it was really cool. Very nice. But I had a bigger house than Steven Seagal. How about them apples? So it is located on 11 acres. I only had 3. He wins. It had a garage, a barbecue area, a sauna, and a canopy. Now, I want to build a Russian banya. I want to build a Russian bathhouse. I think it would be very fun. So I'm looking for investors. I want somebody to come and fund the building of a Russian bathhouse, a banya. And I will teach you how to run it out. I'll bring out the Birioza. I'll bring out the dub. These are the little vetki. What do they call those? The little branches they beat you with. I'll show you how to do it. We'll have some porumichki. We'll drink some vodka, and we'll drink some mostly vodka. We'll eat some pickles. It'll be great. We'll have a very good time. But apparently, Steven Seagal has himself a garage barbecue and a sauna with a canopy. The approximate price of this cozy little nest is 150 million rubles. Okay. Now, when I was just in Russia, Russia had an exchange rate, and it's been doing pretty well. So at the beginning of the year, when the old Trumpster took office, it was really in trouble. But it was like 100 and for some reason it spiked when he, because it was last year when I was there, it was the same as it was this year when I was there. But right about after Trump got elected, it spiked up and then it went back down. So it was 81, let's call it 80. So 80 rubles per dollar. So 150 million rubles divided by 80 is, wow, Barvika must be very expensive, because that comes out to $1,875,000. I wouldn't pay $1 million, not for this house, $1,875,000. Maybe I want too much. My poor little place in Wardsville was under 400,000, and I got rid of it in 2007. It wasn't. It was bigger than this, but it was only on 3 acres. Land is a big deal, especially in Barvika. So, at any rate, old Mr. Seagal, Super, has obtained a video to show Seagal's modest home, and then they walk you through the video. The 2-story house is designed in the spirit of a hunting chateau, decorated with decorative forging and faced with facade brick. In short, simple but tasteful. It's very nice. Looks like a U.S.-style home in California or something. If you look up super.ru is where you will find it. Let us recall, the article goes on, that since 2016, Seagal has lived in Russia and rarely appears in public. The actor was last seen on Red Square on May 9. That's Victory Day. Before that, he appeared at the opening of the Lesnoy restaurant, where he ordered beef carpaccio with parmesan, hummus, and vegetables, and a seafood salad. In general, Seagal has no shortage of taste, as evidenced by his cozy home on Rublyovka and gastronomic preferences. It is known that Stephen owns a share in Gorky Holding Company, LLC, which owns the International Martial Arts Center project in the Moscow region. How about that? So, see, I can give you good things about the world. So, Seagal would be very interesting to talk to, I think, and find out. I paid attention years ago why he went there, and I really don't remember why he did. I just don't recall. I think it did have to do with the martial arts. I saw something, and I'm not talking any of the topics that I got pulled up. I got like 12 tabs pulled up of interesting stories I want to get into, and here I am trying to get my mind off of that damn stabbing on the of that poor Ukrainian girl. And at any rate, now I forgot what the hell I was going to say, but I'm getting old. I remember it. There's a guy named Munson. Is it Munson? And he's like a martial arts fighter. And he moved over there too. And I saw one of the funniest things ever in a million years. So, I mean, it was freaking hilarious that involved him. I was watching some New Year's Eve Russian program, And there's a show called Comedy Club, and I love watching Comedy Club. I think it's hilarious, and there's some highly satirical and pretty funny guys that are on Comedy Club. I really like these two. One's named Pavel Volya, and the other one is named Garek Harlamov, and those two are freaking hilarious. And they had come up with it. They had split into two teams. Harlamov was on one side, and Volya was on the other. And the goal of this thing was you have a group of comedians on one on each side, and or one whatever, two sides. What in the hell am I talking about? Two sides. And so these two guys would then come up with these contests, and they would, there were 10 games that you would play, comedy sort of games. And one of the funniest things I ever saw in a million years, it would be funny to do something similar over here. But I don't know that it would work in English as much, but because the fact is, I'm knocking stuff over. Very few Americans speak Russian. And Munson, if that was his name, and I hope it was, because I'm 90% sure that's his name, he is no exception. He doesn't speak any Russian. And so the game went like this. And they called him up. They put a set of headphones on him and made sure he couldn't hear any of what was going on in the audience. So he had these headphones. And then they would play, he was the guy that had to recreate whatever Russian song that he was hearing in his headphones. And he was doing these weird hoots and the funniest thing you ever saw. And the comedians, there's like 5 comedians on each team or whatever, that they had to guess what song he was singing based on whatever hooting and that he was doing. And he wasn't supposed to hum or do anything like that. He was supposed to just use the words. And it was so damn funny because those who don't speak Russian, each Russian word has, probably 18 endings and probably 12, 15 predlogi, well, I suppose it'd be a prepositional phrase. I don't know, but whatever goes in front of the verb or whatever. Anyway, I don't mean to give you a grammar lesson, but I learned more about English grammar learning Russian that I never learned in high school, I'll tell you that. And because you have to follow the grammar rules or people think you're a moron. And you could be a moron even if you know grammar, though, just so you know. Because they learn grammar over there. Oops, I'm still knocking crap over. I'm feeling cramped in here. And I don't know why. But anyway, that is not the topic of tonight. I'm glad I finally got my mind off of those evil topics in the craziness of life, because I did want to go into some more serious things, if at all possible today. And I'm going to. I really am going to get there. Quite a few things. The French government has collapsed. Okay, now this is serious. The French government has collapsed again. Will Macron learn any lessons? No, of course he won't. I'm giving you the answer before I dig into the article. Macron is a true believer. He is a globalist, period. End of story. That's it. He believes that what they're doing, and by the way, he's probably right. The only thing that can save Europe right now is globalism. I was telling you that when I was in Lithuania last week, I guess it was really not that long ago that I was in Lithuania. Those people, they think differently than we do, but they mean it. It's not like they're doing it and I always thought that Democrats really couldn't be that. Half the time I thought that Hillary Clinton didn't believe the crap that she was pumping out herself. She knew that it was BS. You know what I mean? But that they're so dedicated to the cause that they've decided that these are the things that they're going to do, and they will pass out these horror, like the Emperor's New Clothes sort of thing, like the gay man in women's clothing, the transgender person dressing up to be a woman. We're all supposed to pretend that really, oh, gee, they are a woman. No, I'm not going to. I just won't. And, I'm not going to call you Miss when you come up and order a hamburger from me because I'm working at McDonald's and you want, I'm Miss. Well, good for you. Do you want the burger or not? These are my replies. Man, I'm really babbling today. I'm kind of on a roll. But Macron will never learn any lessons. Is my point in that. The article. And if you haven't heard, the French government collapsed again. And it's, what is this, number 12 prime minister they're going to have to appoint? Let's see. He is burning through prime ministers at a pretty steady pace. Not that he's likely to learn any lessons and stop milking the taxpayers. So, let's get into this article. And it's, again, this is by Rachel Marsden, who I like, and I think she's pretty good. She's fluent in French and in English, and she writes some pretty good stories. And she produces talk shows in both languages as well. So let's get to it. And it's a long, it's really not that long. I'm gonna share it all with you just because it's very interesting. And her opinion is right, too. So this is, if you want to know the truth, don't go reading, people that are going to justify this and feel sorry for the old Macron loony bin too. France has gone through so many prime ministers lately, they should just bolt a wind turbine to the revolving door. At least then the political instability could maybe bring down the people's rising power bills, particularly given that the tax on energy just jumped from 5.5% to 20%. Francois Bayrou is the third hand-picked puppet of French President Emmanuel Macron, who is hovering at around 15% popularity himself, to get turfed within a year, and the fourth over the past 2 years. He called for a no-confidence vote on himself a couple of weeks ago, effectively begging opposition lawmakers to put him out of his political misery, after finding himself in the apparently impossible situation of trying to find 44 billion euros to cut from the French budget. So, Bayrou found himself in front of Parliament on Monday, right before the vote, pretending to plead with lawmakers not to shove him off the ledge and into the political abyss from which Macron fished him out in the first place. He was the same one that there was before. MPs enthusiastically seized the opportunity to pay tribute to Bayrou, but what they delivered looked more like a highlight reel of slam dunks with Bayrou as the basket. They accused him of everything from degrading France's finances while claiming to be investigating them, to racking up new expenses while hand-wringing over the mounting bills. Bayrou gets to now go back home to the south of France and enjoy a lifetime of gold-plated entitlements for having been a prime minister for all of about 10 seconds. It turned out that 364 lawmakers voted against him, with just 194 awarding him their confidence. It's been a long time coming. Bayrou really hasn't seemed too interested in hanging in there for a while now. Why would he have proposed back in July canceling a couple of paid state holidays every year for French workers as a means of pinching a few pennies, or clawing back benefits that French workers have paid into their entire lives under the explicit agreement that if they pay massive taxes during their productive life, then the government will guarantee them comfort on the back end or when they need a social safety net? Now, we're in the same boat, friends and neighbors, in our, paying the massive taxes and hoping that Social Security's wandering around in a couple of years when I get some. In the run-up to this vote, Bayrou was also riffing on the idea of saving a few more cents. by canceling health care coverage for things like doctor-prescribed spa. Admittedly, I was surprised when I first arrived here a couple of decades ago to learn that French Social Security pays for people to flop around in spring water in the Alps. But it's hard to imagine that's what broke the bank or tops the list of idiotic big-ticket items. Quick reminder that the French people didn't actually choose Bayrou. Macron did. And since Bayrou is resigning, it's back to the drawing board for the French president to try to find another puppet who can make the budget cuts that he and Brussels are demanding, but also appease the opposition enough, notably the anti-establishment right and the left populists that can band together for a majority vote, to avoid having to make another trip to the polls. Failing that, it will be back to the voting booth again to test whether the French are finally fed up enough to saddle Macron with polling frontrunner Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party control of the government purse strings. And he sure as hell don't want that. Despite France's problems at home, Bayrou distracted himself by lecturing Trump about America's issues, even as the ground was giving out from under him, whining about Washington's bulldozer politics compared to France's respect for its citizens, which must be why Bayrou was so keen to take a gig that those same citizens didn't actually elect him to do. A few days ahead of this vote, Bayrou's foreign minister, Eric Lombard, was basically trying to keep his job and government in place by scaring up support, floating the ridiculous specter of an international monetary fund intervention. It's absurd scaremongering since Italy and Japan have higher debt to GDP ratio and France is a long way from ever qualifying for or needing IMF help, according to virtually every economic expert. But the vibe is, you'd better let us do what we want with the budget, because otherwise the globalists are going to lock us in our rooms under curfew. So what's the plan now? This is where yet another scare tactic comes in to grease the taxpayers' wallets, drumming up the need to throw more tax money into the defense sector for Ukraine and hope that does the heavy lifting of boosting the economy. Arms dealing as the path to economic salvation. Then what's next? Drug dealing? State prostitution? Meanwhile, France remains politically blocked and faces another round of protests on Wednesday under the battle cry of block everything. Have you heard about that? That's pretty frightening too. But the truly revolutionary idea would be to unlock the hot mess, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. If you don't know, where is this block mess? Boop-de-boop-de-boo. Block everything, I mean. Let's see. Open. There it is. Oh, stop. Yes. Who are France's block everything protesters? Who are they? Supporters of France's block everything, bloquons tout movement, have been preparing for their day of action on September 10, vowing to shut down the country, while the online call to protest echoes the yellow vests. Remember when I interviewed my friend George, and he was telling me about the yellow vests and what happened in 2018? This is them. This is the next round. Their profile is different, according to a recent study. Anger is brewing because of the budget that scraps 2 national holidays, freezes pensions, cuts $5 billion from health spending. Out of discontent, a new protest movement called Block Everything has emerged. Launched in social media in July, the campaign has drawn early comparisons to the Yellow Vests, a grassroots revolt that began over fuel taxes, ballooned into a nationwide uprising in 2018-2019. Radical left base, unlike the Yellow Vest, who were apolitic supporters of Block Everything, come heavily from the left. Nearly 3/4 of those surveyed said they were very interested in politics, compared with less than 1 in 5, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares about that. Social justice and climate are at the core. Telegram chat groups linked to campaign are filled with calls for a general strike and attacks on ultra-rich capitalists. Why is it always the ultra-rich that we're going after? I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. What in the world possible use can you have for, $20 billion? I mean, seriously, how much do you really need? But I get the point, young, highly educated protesters. Well, if they were highly educated, they wouldn't be wasting their time protesting. The profile of supporters: 1/4 of Block Everything backers are aged 25 to 34, far above the national average. Only 4% are over 70. How about that? Echoes of Yellow Vest, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they're having some real protests over there. Life is grim. Life is grim and getting more grim. I was going to tell you about the Germany covering for the terrorists that attacked it. The worst act of eco-terrorism in recent history has become a surreal exercise in blame shifting, right? Excuse me. But I don't, you know what? This is far too long. I'm not going to go into that one. And I've plenty more to spin through that I wish to get to. We already told you about the French loonies attacking. So Nepal's government the whole building is on fire. It's burning, and they got pirate flags flying. and you ought to see the videos. They have pirate flags a-flying. And the government building has been set ablaze. The Singha Durbar Palace in central Kathmandu houses several ministries and administrative offices. Well, it's on fire. Massive blaze has engulfed Nepal's Singha Durbar Palace in central Kathmandu, country's main administrative complex, after violent protests. I don't know if you've seen any of those, but it's not good. Have swept the Himalayan nation's capital. Footage circulating online shows the building being consumed by flames. The palace, built in 1908, serves as the seat of Nepal's government, hosts several ministries and other key institutions. The demonstrations, led by people in their late teens and early 20s. Yeah, let's burn crap. I know. Let's sit in a room and spread our legs and throw tennis balls at each other's Johnson. That'll be fun. Erupted on Monday after authorities banned major social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and X. So if you don't get Facebook, YouTube, and X in, where are we, Nepal, then we burn down. We burn the central ministries. This will teach you. I tell you what, these are some great countries people get to live in. The protests turned violent, with dozens confirmed dead in Kathmandu and 500 injured, including more than 100 police officers. This is over Facebook, YouTube, and X. On Tuesday, demonstrators broke through the western gates of the Singha Durbar, forced their way into the restricted area, and set parts of the entrance on fire. The fire is not just a small blaze. This is huge. Witness report heavy clashes with security forces as the crowd advanced inside, according to several media outlets. Other footage shared online showed Nepal's parliament building ablaze with charred walls, smoke billowing in the sky, and fires burning as large crowds gather outside. Isn't that nuts? In a lighter note, the British ambassador to the U.S. penned a 10-page love letter to best pal Epstein. The note was part of a book of sex offender accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell compiled for his 50th birthday. The British ambassador to the United States, Peter Mendelsohn, described Jeffrey Epstein as his best pal in a handwritten 10-page letter released by the U.S. House Oversight Committee. And there's a copy of it right here. You should spend many hours just waiting for him to turn up. And they show a picture of him. Leaving you with love, interesting friends to something instead. I can't read that one word. And then they blocked out the here's Epstein and here's the lady with a bag on her head. The entry featured images ranging from a yellow parachute gliding through the air to snapshots relaxing at Epstein properties. Once upon a time, an intelligent, sharp-witted man they call mysterious parachuted into my life. And then they show Epstein. You should spend many hours just waiting for him to turn up. And often, so no sooner were you getting used to having him around, you would suddenly be alone again, leaving you with love, interesting friends. I'm exhausted instead, or just some dogs to keep you company. Crazy. So they're releasing all kinds of stuff. And this was who was he? The British ambassador to the United States, Peter Mendelsohn. And it was written for Epstein's 50th birthday. Isn't that pleasant? Such good friends. So the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Besant, the genius I call him, guy's a moron, is a U.S. Treasury Secretary who threatened to punch an official in his effing face, according to media. He had a heated clash with the housing regulator Bill Pulte at a private Trump dinner. U.S. Treasury Secretary Besant allegedly threatened to punch this guy in the face, calling him in the effing face. The confrontation was defused by club co-owner and ended with the two being seated apart from each other. You go to your room. Well, that's what we're going to do. The exchange took place last week at an executive branch club in Washington, D.C., a private club co-founded by Donald Trump Jr. during a dinner hosted for podcaster, I can't say it, Charmath Palihapitiya's birthday. Sorry, I don't know that person. Besant reportedly launched a profanity-laced tirade at Pulte, who he believed was bad-mouthing him to U.S. President Trump. Well, if he's not, I am. I'm bad-mouthing you. You're a moron. Why the F are you talking to the president about me? F you, he said before threatening to punch Pulte in his effing face. Media reported, citing eyewitness accounts. Geez, maybe he could learn something from my son and his group of goofy friends way back when. They could sit in a room and just throw tennis balls at each other's testicles. Maybe that would be the way that disputes are resolved. Let's see. Omid Malik, co-owner of the club, reportedly intervened to prevent further escalation. Malik separated the two men after Besant told him, "It's either me or him. You tell me who's getting the F out of here, or we could go outside." And when Pulte asked, "To talk?" Besant responded, "No, I'm going to effing beat your ass." The two were then seated at opposite ends of the dinner table, the outlet said. Sources familiar with the matter told Politico that the clash grew out of tensions between the two men over the privatization of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Gee, that's something to get in a fight over. Projects that President Trump assigned them to manage in May. Besant and Pulte have been on opposite sides of the debate over whether Trump should remove Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. According to earlier media reports, Besant privately cautioned against such a move, warning it could destabilize financial markets. And Pulte has urged Powell to resign and drafted a suggested termination letter for Trump. It is not the first reported confrontation involving Besant. Earlier this year, he allegedly clashed with Elon Musk near the Oval Office, using profanities to accuse the tech billionaire of going behind his back in a dispute over the acting IRS commissioner appointment. Isn't that terrible that we have these adults in the room? Remember, They're here. So let's read about that too, because honestly, I don't remember hearing about this one. So we're going to go back and check it out. So, according to Axios, Musk and Besant had a WWE fight in the White House. Elon Musk and Treasury Secretary Besant were involved in a heated shouting match inside the White House, reportedly trading expletives and personal insults during a confrontation over leadership of the IRS. The incident reportedly unfolded in the West Wing on Thursday, within earshot of President Donald Trump and visiting Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. How sad for them. The two men argued over Trump's recent decision to name Gary Shapley, Musk's preferred candidate, as as acting IRS commissioner, a move that blindsided Besant, who had lobbied for his own deputy, Michael Falkender. It was two billionaire middle-aged men thinking it was WWE in the hall of the West Wing, one witness told Axios. Musk reportedly accused Besant, a former partner at Soros Fund Management and the founder of Key Square Group, of being a Soros agent. Besant roared back at one point, alleging, "F you," to which Musk replied, "Say it louder." The clash did not escalate into physical violence, but was loud enough to be heard in nearby offices, according to multiple sources. Witnesses said an aide had to physically step between the two men to prevent the situation from intensifying. This guy sounds unstable. I mean, he's nuts anyway, but he sounds unstable on top of it. Real diplomat. Yes, real diplomatic dude. White House Press Secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, downplayed the incident, telling New York Times that disagreements are a normal part of any healthy family. No, any healthy policy process, and that ultimately everyone knows they serve at the pleasure of Donald Trump. Besant ultimately came out on top, with Shapley replaced by Falkender just days after the appointment. Wonder if that's why the old Elon Musk ran away. Trust must be brought back to the IRS, and I'm fully confident that Deputy Secretary Falkender is the right man for the moment, said Besant. Gary Shapley's passion and thoughtfulness for approaching ways to create durable and lasting reform at the IRS is essential to our work, and he remains among my most senior advisors at the U.S. Treasury as we work together to rethink and reform the IRS. The altercation highlights long-standing tension between Musk and Besant, dating back to the presidential transition when Musk unsuccessfully pushed for Howard Lutnick to lead Treasury. Trump appointed Besant, the moron, and nominated Lutnick to head the Commerce Department. Since then, Musk and Besant clashed repeatedly over personnel and policy, including at Doge. And we all know how that ended. But that was a backwards look because Besant is a nut. So there you have it. Scott Besant hasn't said anything intelligent forever. Should we go back to France? No, let's stay out of France. Those people are nuts. Here we have one of my favorite people to listen to because she will say anything. She doesn't care. And you got to love that about her. The people who don't care might actually save some crap. Here we go. U.S. lawmaker moves to block Ukrainian aid. It's about freaking time. Today's my brother's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, my dear brother Clayton. I did wish him happy birthday by text this morning, but I wanted to wish him happy birthday here. I know he listens to me from time to time, and maybe he's listening tonight on his birthday. Yeah, right. I don't think so. He's probably out partying. You know what I did, though? I accused him of being the wrong age today. I was off by a year. Seems I can't add. So I guess Elon Musk would never be wanting to appoint me as head of the IRS. Sad for the IRS, but probably good for the IRS because I'd shut that sucker down. It'd be gone. I'd be the IRS. You pay, you don't. I make a decision. I should be able to get through a whole list of them. We could take whole swaths of people and say, you don't pay. Anybody who paid last year, you don't have to pay this year. Okay, and if you didn't pay last year, then you do have to pay this year, but we'll be reasonable. Only half your money instead of, what are we paying now? Who knows? Anyway, we can get to my beautiful ideas for reforming the government at a later time. Right now, we want to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's a lot of fun, and she's always yelling. She wants to block some Ukraine aid. Listen, I'll go yell with her. I will yell with her. This is crazy. Listen to this. U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has proposed removing $600 million in Ukraine support from the draft Pentagon spending bill. If you're not angry over this draft spending bill, you really should be. This is crap. I'm so sick of these people up in the ante and, oh, geez, let's blow up some more stuff. That is doing no one any good. If you watch the front lines, bad news all around for Ukraine. They are not winning. Why keep pumping money into a losing proposition? Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene needs to hire me. I'm not going to Ukraine. They'll kill me over there. I'm not going over there. Those people are nuts. They I had a discussion with someone today, won't say who, about the convergence of horror for the Democrats, for the people for the virtue signaling folks that have to virtue signal that, oh geez, we're all for Ukraine. Then they have to virtue signal Black Lives Matter. Then they have to virtue signal anybody has a criminal record shouldn't have to pay bond. All three of those converged into one thing, as we discussed a little bit last night. And now these people who are all about picking the right virtue don't know what to do. Their heads are coming unscrewed. They don't know whether they're supposed to support the dead Ukrainian girl, the guy who was out on bail for the 50th time, and never should have been out on the street in the first place, or the Black Lives Matter because the girl had posters of Black Lives Matter in her own place that she supported. Remember, that's how you get money if you're a Ukrainian. You come over here and you claim, oh, geez, we support all that stuff. That's how you get money in Ukraine. That's how you get money when you get here. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go there. I just won't do it because it'll get me back on that damn subway or bus or whatever it was. And I don't want to be there. So she has proposed that Americans' hard-earned tax dollars should not go to foreign aid. The Georgia Republican proposed canceling the allocation of those funds in 2026 and 2027 to shift priorities toward the U.S. Donald Trump, back in the White House, the U.S. has dramatically cut military aid to Kyiv, pausing more than $1 billion in planned funds. And she said on her little, what is this? Is this X? Yeah, this is X. When we fund our military, it should only be for America's military. But once again, the NDAA is loaded with billions of your hard-earned tax dollars headed overseas. When I say America only, I mean it. That's why I'm fighting to strip out every dime for foreign countries. I wonder if you can hear this. See if I can figure out how to do this. That says right PC. Let's listen to her just because it could be fun. And you might not hear it. I don't know. We'll see if we can figure it out.
Hi, everyone. We are back in Washington, D.C., and this week we are going to be doing the National Defense Authorization Act. This funds the United States military, which I am a big fan of, especially since we elected Donald Trump. However, I'm going to be talking to you about some amendments that I'm introducing that I think are extremely important. These amendments will strike all funding for foreign countries because let's face it, you guys, if we're America first, none of your hard-earned tax dollars should be going for foreign countries, for foreign causes, for foreign wars, and foreign aid. We're $37 trillion in debt, everyone. It's time to put America first. So here we go with my First Amendment. Okay.
Woo! Well, you know what? It's a lot longer than that. It's 12 minutes long. We're not listening to the whole thing. But I agree with those, that commentary. I think if anybody ever understood, if the common citizen understood the BS that goes on in the military, just to spend the money. I remember, I tell you, I've told you this before. I remember every August, everybody starts saying, geez, we got to spend all the money they gave us last year. We won't get more this year. You have to spend everything or you can't get more. And you can't, what are we going to spend it on? Oh, geez, go training. We go training. We'd buy crazy nonsense and nobody cared because they were all justifying it. Tell you what, that was in the freaking 90s. It's worse now. These people are so used to it. That's, you in the military, how do you get ahead? Seriously, how do you do it? When I was in the military, I get it. You get ahead by shut up. Just like, what's his name? Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, he got promoted. He did stuff. You know why? Yes, drill sergeant. That's why, right there. And you just say yes, yes, yes. If they tell you to spend the money, spend the freaking money. And that is unfortunate. And, the only way to stop it is to give them less. They could go an entire year without funding. They probably could. There's so much pork. It's been going on for generations, forever. And don't ever think it's well-spent money. It isn't. Why do we need this Ukraine war? To make money. We're not making money. We're going deeper into debt. But the people all along the line squeeze their percentage out. Everybody takes their little chunk out and passes it on to Uncle Jimmy, or whoever's on there. Who was the Biden dude? I forget which one. Well, his son was Hunter, but he also had his uncle got some of the money too. Anyway, Miss Greene said that her amendment would strike $600 million from the defense bill, money that she said goes to Ukraine. U.S. had already spent $175 billion in this war. It was enough of your hard-earned dollars. She described the measure as part of America First agenda, saying U.S. funds should not be used for foreign war when the country is $37 trillion in debt. How do you disagree with that? Especially when people aren't using the dollar anymore. To get back to Sam's land, we don't use the dollar anymore. And people are starting to trade with other currency all over the planet. And nobody is funding U.S. debt anymore. If you don't understand how important that is, perhaps you should. The Congresswoman stated that the U.S. usually allocates $300 million annually, but that Speaker Johnson and Republicans are feeling so generous they want to give them $600 million. It's freaking nonsense to give them $300, and my amendment will take it out. She said she has never voted to fund this war. Greene introduced another amendment after learning that another $100 million had been earmarked for Kyiv, and said she wanted to remove all funding in case others in Congress feel so giving. They're all going to hide it in there. I can tell you what, Lindsey Graham probably has 50 different packages going over there because he'll get his cut. That's how he gets elected. Greene also put forward measures to cut aid for Israel, Syria, and Iraq. We're still funding Iraq, friends and neighbors. That the money should be kept back here at home. To do what? We're going to waste it here, too. What difference does it make? I shouldn't say stuff like that. That's pretty negative. And I'm not a negative person. While previous President Joe Biden administration approved large-scale aid to Ukraine, Trump has cut assistance but allowed some deliveries, such as Patriot air defense systems. He repeatedly expressed concern about possible misuse of U.S. aid. Oh, are you kidding? No. Who would believe that Ukraine would possibly misuse U.S. aid? How could you? I can't imagine. I would never say anything like that. Claiming that billions allocated under Biden may have been embezzled. May? Why are we saying may? In July, Trump said that any additional weapons delivered to Ukraine would have to be paid for by Europe's NATO members. Well, that's because you distract them and do the opposite. That is how it works. Ukraine's European backers are pushing for more weapons as part of security guarantees, and Russia insists that Western military aid is an obstacle to reaching a peace deal. I say it's worse than that. They are losing. So, what is the point? Nobody listens to me. Nonsense. France is headed for a black hole, said a financial expert. Netherlands is running out of space for Ukrainians. I mean, if you wanted to live in the Netherlands, geez, wish I was a Ukrainian. I'd go live in the Netherlands and get a bunch of cash. That's how it works. Ukrainian immigrants can no longer be housed in Dutch townships as shelters are at capacity and people are being turned away. 4.7 million people have fled Ukraine to other parts of Europe since the conflict escalated in 2022. 120,000 or so have gone to the Netherlands, including plenty of men who have left the country to avoid mobilization. According to the VNG, the Association of Netherlands Municipalities, almost all of the 97,000 municipal shelter spaces in the Netherlands are occupied, while 300 Ukrainians continue to arrive weekly into the country. Municipalities have reported they are no longer able to provide housing. They get this stuff for free. I mean, for free. And they can stay there forever, and then they get additional. Dutch officials warn that without additional support, municipalities may not be able to meet their housing obligation. It's their obligation to provide free housing to everyone. Proposals under discussion include, get this, include requiring Ukrainians with jobs or income to contribute toward rent. Oh my God, how could you stand it, having to contribute to rent? Other Western European countries face similar difficulties. The UK, Ireland, Germany, and Finland have all taken steps to reduce financial support or benefits for Ukrainians, citing the pressure on national budget and housing supplies. In Poland, anti-Ukrainian sentiment has been rising. Defense Minister Władysław Kozyniak-Kamysz said in March that Poles were increasingly frustrated over hundreds of thousands or maybe even a million young Ukrainians driving the best cars around Europe and spending weekends in five-star hotels. All absolutely true. Last month, Polish President Karol Nawrocki vetoed a bill to prolong benefits for Ukrainians, arguing the assistance system needs to be reworked. Because assistance isn't assistance. It's a freaking vacation. If you get a free house and enough money to party, that's all you need. And you're in Europe. I'll go there. Put me in a place. You know what? I'll go live in a free home provided in the Netherlands. Are you kidding me? I'll do it. I'll speak Russian. I'll go there and claim I'm from Ukraine. Lost my passport. I'm coming in. I'm just, I don't know. I'm on a roll. Ukrainians are making Russian language more common in an EU state. In Lithuania. And this is where I just was. That's why this is interesting to me. These people, I told you they wouldn't talk to me, and people are pissy about it. And let's see. Ukrainian refugees contribute to the growing use of Russian in Lithuania, a senior official said. For centuries, Lithuania was part of the Russian Empire. And between, son of a nutcracker. Blah, 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 blah. For centuries, Lithuania was part of the Russian Empire. right? And between 1940 and 1991, it was a republic within the Soviet Union. Ethnic Russians make up around 5% of the country's population. When I was over there, I heard 18 to 20%, but whatever. Ethnic Russians, blah, blah, blah. Approximately 60% of Lithuanian citizens are fluent in Russian, and nearly all Ukrainians understand the language as well. With the arrival of refugees from Ukraine, as well as migrants from Central Asia and other countries, Russian, which they all speak, is being heard more often in public places. Babylis urged the public not to exploit the issue of language to sow division. We encourage society's opinion leaders to ensure that the well-intentioned goal of strengthening the national language does not become a vehicle for inciting hatred or creating a social divide, which would weaken the resilience of the state and the civil society. So when I was over there, these people are nuts. I told you about my ride in the Uber deal, and I was evil. I tell you what, the guy was a jerk about it. When came outside, brought suitcases, said something in Russian. He said, "I won't speak Russian." I said, "Do you understand it?" He said, "Yes, I do," in English. And I said, "Well, you're in his English, and I said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna." I wasn't going to say a whole lot to him, and I didn't. But then, when we were speaking Russian in the back of the car, chatting in Russian, he got pissy twice. He's breathing hard. The guy's nuts, and it was just rude. And he at one point said, "I don't want to hear Russian." What? Screw you, dude. I'm on vacation. I didn't say that, but it's like, whatever. I didn't listen, but I didn't encourage or say anything. But when it was done, I gave him, you can't do much. Oh, geez, listen to what I did. I gave him a 1-star rating. Gee, that was helpful, wasn't it? But Babylis urged the public, this is the lady, we encourage societal leaders to ensure blah, blah, blah. I already read that to you. The influx of Ukrainians has also posed challenges for schools in the enforcement of labor law, which require a basic knowledge of Lithuanian. In a viral Facebook post last month, veteran journalist Edmundas Jekalatis wrote, "The prevalence of Russian in Vilnius has become intolerable. The language is everywhere. How are we supposed to reclaim our capital now?" Lithuania is among the most vocal supporters of Ukraine in the EU and is consistently calling for tougher sanctions on Moscow and increasing military aid to Kiev. And I'm telling you, they're evil. And everywhere you go, it's a Ukrainian flag. But they don't know why. Russia's just evil. And the Russian people are evil. They talk bad about the Russians. And the Russians have nothing to do with anything. You can dislike what's going on in Ukraine, but why hate the Russians? Nonsense. Unlike its Baltic peers, Lithuania granted citizenship to all its residents regardless of ethnicity or language following the breakup of the Soviet Union. But despite this measure and a rising standard of living, it's not that great. The country has lost 1/4 of its population since 1991, prompting heated debates about the desirability of immigration. Well, because there's nothing there. You got nothing. Without Russian history, you have none, which not really fair because, well, you know what? It really is fair. They have some cool places, but they've all been part of Poland. They've been, they were overrun by Germany, but the only ones you hate are the Russians. You don't hate the Tatars. You don't hate the Austria-Hungarians. You don't hate the Turkish Empire. Who are we supposed to hate? You don't hate the Romans. You don't hate the Germans. I mean, geez, how many people have overrun Lithuania? I don't know. I talked too much about this while I was in Lithuania. They're all a bunch of nuts. One thing that really, really troubled me, I'm telling you, this BS with Israel is just killing me. I do not support this. There is zip that I support in this. Now they're bombing Qatar. Nonsense. I mean, we're just supposed to believe that these people know that where Hamas leadership is located. That they know absolutely. And that it doesn't matter anything else. Once you decide that they are there, you can do whatever the hell you want. And you don't need permission of Qatar. You can do it in somebody else's country. You can do it wherever you want. Why? Because nobody will do anything about it. I'm sick of it. I mean, you know what? I'm a religious, believer. You know, I think they've gone through some horror stories in their days, and I could never, ever justify anything like that. 67 million residents, children, women, whatever, 67 million have been killed by Israel in the last year and a half or whatever it is. It's got to be close 2 years by now, doesn't it? But nobody ever condemns them. Even Trump, he didn't say a whole lot. I mean, it was very light, okay? And they always go, oh, geez, it was a precise strike, and it was against senior leadership. And so that makes it okay. We make a precise strike. Wonder why, some of these people, what if they happen to end up being in the United States? Are we going to allow a precise strike by Israel in the United States? Why should Qatar allow it? Why shouldn't Qatar be up in arms about this? This is nonsense. Israel conducting a precise strike against senior leadership, Israeli defense force. They announce it on Tuesday, knowing that nobody will do anything about it. Nobody. And they don't care if they do. I mean, the U.S. won't cut them off. We have people up in Congress going, yay! We have people on TV praising this and going, oh, Jesus, great, man. We're taking out the bad guy. Who gets to decide who's bad? That is a problem. You don't get to decide who's bad. You have some dude on TV telling you who's bad. You have some dude in another country telling you that he's decided somebody's bad. I can't, it's like what I said earlier, and I'm going to go back to the stupid subway or bus or whatever it was. Which one are we supposed to support here? Are we supposed to support the guy who shouldn't have been out on bail? Are we supposed to support the Ukrainian girl? Or are we supposed to support the black guy because Black Lives Matter? What are we supposed to do here? Somebody needs to instruct us on what we're supposed to do. But we're always supposed to say, Israel, Israel. You know what? That is crap, and it's a cop-out. It is a cop-out. That's like, me going and kicking your brother in the teeth because your brother punched my sister. It's escalation, and it's crap. And it's not... Oh, but you can't engage with these people. You can't talk to them. They don't listen. Yeah? Try them. Keep talking. You don't... And you killing in this manner, that's coward. That's cowardly, and it's BS. It is nuts. It's just... Matt talks about it, my brother, on his program every once in a while about Obama bombing U.S. citizens that were bad because he got to decide they were bad. You arrest people and you jail them. It's what civilized people do. This is uncivilized, okay? Now, you can call me wrong all you want. I don't care. I disagree with this type. This is your government. This is crap. Nobody has any right to just go out and blatantly kill people. You don't do it. I don't know. That's not a country that I support, and I wouldn't support Israel. Wouldn't want them mowing my lawn. This is crap. And would they accept it? Okay, so now we're supposed to say that Hamas. So what's going to happen? I heard something on TV tonight. Some guy goes, "Oh yeah, well, we find those people even if it's 20 years later, and we kill them." Okay, you think they're not doing the same to you? You think that's going to help? You think killing in this manner is going to stop this trend? Is going to stop how it works? It's not. I got news for you. It's just going to make it worse. And Qatar? Bad plan, I think. Israel conducted a precise strike, right? The Israel Defense Force said. And why is it precise? Because they said it was. The Israeli military said it carried out the operation in coordination with the Shin Bet Security Agency. The IDF did not name the exact location targeted in the strike. The IDF conducted a precise strike targeting senior leadership of Hamas terrorist organization. Prior to the strike, measures were taken in order to mitigate harm to civilians, right? Including the use of precise munitions and additional intelligence. Yeah, from where? The announcement came after at least 10 blasts rocked the Hamas headquarters in Doha. Yeah, that's precise. Munitions, 10 blasts. in the Hamas headquarters in Doha. Footage circulating online shows the building was badly damaged. You think 10 blasts? According to multiple media reports citing Hamas source, the strike targeted the group's negotiating team. Yeah, let's blow up the negotiating team. Here it is, which has been discussing the latest U.S. proposal on the cessation of hostilities. So guess what? You have the negotiating team, you follow them back to the site where they're talking with leadership, and then you bomb them. This is negotiating in good faith. Screw you, Israel. That is crap. That is, Qatar has condemned the cowardly Israel attacks. Frankly, I agree. Described the location affected by the strike as residential buildings housing several members of the political bureau of the Hamas movement. It is not immediately clear whether the attack reached the intended target. Conflicting media reports citing sources within the group indicate. Some suggest that several high-profile Hamas figures were killed in the attack. Why do you think they follow the investigating team back to where they're talking to people? You don't expect that Hamas could possibly do the same thing to you? Nonsense. But they probably have turned it up. Trump gives another last warning to Hamas over that, right? Gee, here's another. Netanyahu can do whatever he wants. Nobody will stop him ever. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu insisted that the attack on Hamas in Qatar was a unilateral action and no other countries were involved. Today's action against top terrorist chieftains in Hamas was wholly independent Israeli operation. By the way, we should add in here, we know nobody will ever do anything about it because why? We're Israel. And he says, and here's what he says instead. He goes, Israel initiated it. Israel conducted it, and Israel takes full responsibility, he says, because he knows nobody will ever do anything, even the UN. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the attack as a flagrant violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar. This is an attack on Qatar. Nonsense. All parties must work toward achieving a permanent ceasefire, not destroying it, he told reporters. But not Israel. They can do whatever they want. You follow the negotiators to whoever they're going to talk to, and you blow that place up. That is what Israel is doing. Dirty dealings and dirty tricks. That's what's happening. And you know what? I have a bad habit of calling it like it is. This is crap. Oh, I've been ranting the whole show, haven't I? Gee, how about Bojo? Let's go to Bojo. Everybody love Mr. Bojo. Boris Johnson has profited from contacts and influence he gained in office. Oh, no. His wife has a nice green hat, though. The Guardian alleged on Monday that the trove of leaked documents show his profits. The outlet said it obtained about 2 gigabytes of files, including email, letter, invoices, spreadsheets, speeches, and contracts from the office of Bojo, the company that manages his post-government business dealings. Most of the materials cover September 2022 to July 2024. Of course he's getting rich off Ukraine, just like a bunch of other folks. But the trove also includes earlier records from when he was premier. The Guardian highlighted 4 cases it describes as questionable. A month after taking office in 2019, he had a secret meeting with billionaire Peter Thiel, co-founder of U.S. data giant Palantir Technologies, which is seeking UK contracts at the time. In 2020, he hosted a party for conservative peer David Brownlow, who helped finance renovation of the Prime Minister's residence, a gathering that may have violated the government's own COVID-19 restrictions. Here we go on COVID. After leaving office, Johnson lobbied Saudi officials he met while in power and billed a hedge fund 6 figures following a visit to Venezuela. Money the Guardian claimed was a payment for meeting the country's leadership. The newspaper said it was the only UK outlet given access to the leaked files by Distributed Denial of Secrets, a US-based nonprofit transparency group that obtained the cash earlier this year. The report argued disclosure was in the public interest because Johnson's firm receives government-funded annual stipend meant to cover his official duties as foreign prime minister, not personal enrichment. Johnson resigned as prime minister in September 22 after a string of scandals, including breaches of COVID-19 lockdown rules, appointment of an MP accused of sexual misconduct. During his tenure, he played a significant role in scuttling early peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, opposing a proposed settlement deal and encouraging Kiev to pursue a military path instead. Crazy. Where else are we going? There was a young diplomat group from the Asia Pacific. Remember my discussion on this the other day about the strength of China, India, Russia, and all of the countries of Southeast Asia. Tell you what. Now they're having young diplomat groups from Asia Pacific gathering in Russia. And this is the 6th dialogue of young diplomats. And what they're learning, I'm going to summarize this article for you, because what they're learning is a world of multipolarity. And they're learning that they have to have valuable platforms for dialogue. My son Will got something in like 6th grade. He got a free trip to Washington, D.C., and I went with him. I had to pay, but I went with him. And it was a young diplomats or something like that. And he got this cool certificate. He got to go meet with foreign people and do stuff like that. When I lived in Qatar, I brought him over to stay with me for 2-3 months. He stayed with me over the summer, and I took him to Sri Lanka, and we had a great time over there checking stuff out. And we took him around Qatar, and he met all the Western Europeans that I lived with who were all nuts. But we lived in a big villa over there and had a good time. So I think that young children or young adults should learn about these things. And so I like to see stuff like this. And I know they do some in the U.S. because my son participated in one, and I like to see them happen in other places. It'd be nice to leave a world where our children actually talked amongst themselves. My name is Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor. Please listen to damradio.com/live nightly from 9 to 10:30 with me, and I appreciate that. I also upload all my shows each night onto internationalflavor.com, where you can listen to all of my shows at your convenience and leisure. I know that we also put them out on damradio.com/podcasts, as we do a number of other fantastic talk shows on our platform. I hope you all have a very good evening and continue to listen to our programs.